In this video, I'll walk you through the install for the Radiant software. So we're on the install page. You have a link to this page so you can read up on the process, but I'll also just demo it here for you. So the first thing you'll need is R. R is a programming language. We won't be doing much programming, but we'll be using tools that build on top of R. So you need to install R first. If you're on a Mac, click on this first link here and choose R 3.2.4. So just click that link and it'll ask you where you want to download this file. Once it's on your desktop, just double click it and accept all the defaults. If you're on Windows, click this link here and save the file. So it's R 3.2.4 revised. Hit save. I already have it on my desktop, so I'm not going to save it again. But you just hit save and it'll save wherever you want it to go. All right. So in addition to R, and we'll install this in a second, but basically you just first have to get the R file, the R software, is we'll install RStudio. RStudio is an environment in which you can program in R. So it's convenient for that part, but it's also a useful place to install and run Radiant. So let's go get that. And basically it depends on the platform you're on. If you're on Windows, get the Windows version, of course. If you're on a Mac, get the Mac version. Just click on the link and it'll ask you where you want to install the file. Like, I already have this installed. So, I already have this on my desktop, so I'm not going to hit save again, but that's basically what you should do. All right, so let's get rid of these tabs. All right, so the last thing for Windows users is I also recommend that you install RTools. Now, it's not strictly required, but it is convenient. So again, just click the link. It'll ask you where you want to save the file, and there you go. All right. So let me show you how you run the install process. So we have our 3 files. If we're on Windows, we've got R 3.2.4, we've got RStudio, and on Windows, you might also install RTools. All right. So let's start with R. So I'll double click that. It'll ask you if you want to run this, say yes, or hit run. Then it'll say, do you want to allow the program to make changes on your computer? Yes, because we need to install it. We'll choose the English language and then click next a few times. Now the main thing to stop here for Windows users is that you should not install into the default directory. So that's into program files, and that leads to some potential issues with permissions on where to install, and we're just going to avoid that problem by just installing R into C /R/R 3.2.4. Right? So the only thing I did was I just basically removed the bit where it says program files. Right? So just delete that, and then when you've got that done, hit next. Right, so this is important because otherwise you might run into problems with install on Windows, so make sure that it's installed in the C directory. All right. Would you like to install? Oh, okay. All right, just hit yes and hit next a couple times. You don't need to create a desktop icon or a quick launcher icon because we're using RStudio, which is something that builds on top of R. So just hit next again. And so this will take a second, so I'm just going to pause the video and be right back. Okay, the install process for R is done. It says it's complete, so let's hit finish. All right, so that's step 1. Next step is to install RStudio. So R and RStudio are not the same things. We first have to install R, and then we're going to install RStudio. So double click. Do we want to let it make changes to the computer? Yes. Click next again. Now it's fine to install RStudio into the program files directory. So you can just accept the defaults, just click next or install, whatever the defaults are, a few times. This will again take a second, so I'll just pause and be right back. Okay, so the RStudio install has completed. Hit finish. And then we'll also install RTools. So again, allow it to make some changes to your computer. Hit yes. And OK. Next. And so on. We're just accepting the defaults. This will install directly into C, so we're all fine there. Hit next, and next, and next, and one more time, and install, and there it goes. Okay, so RTools is installed, hit finish. All right, so now we've installed all three of the components that we might need if we're on Windows: R, RStudio, and RTools. All right, so one thing we'll need is we'll need a shortcut to RStudio. So how do we do that? Well, I actually don't use Windows a whole lot. I usually use Mac, but I know that you can create shortcuts and pin things to taskbars, so there's different ways in which you can do this. But I've just clicked down here and then typed in R or RStudio, and then if I right-click, I can do something like pin to start menu. Okay. Let's see. I don't actually see it yet. Let's see, pin to start. Oh, pin to start. Let's do that. Pin to taskbar. All right. Oh, here it is. Okay, so you can put the icon on your desktop or in your taskbar, whatever you like. But now basically just click that, and it'll start up RStudio. All right. Now on my system, the background is black. I happen to like that. You don't need to have that. All right. So our next step is going to be to install. You won't have these. I'm just going to remove this because you wouldn't see it when you start up. Let's see. So let's go back to the install page for a second. Now we've got again RStudio, and on Windows RTools installed. We now need to install Radiant. All right. So how do we do that? You need this particular command. So install packages Radiant, and then where does it need to get that from? All right. So just copy this command directly from your web browser into RStudio, and just right here, just hit paste. Right. Then press enter, and it'll start to install Radiant and its dependencies. Now this will again take a second, so I'm just going to pause it and just let it run until it's done. Okay, Radiant has been installed. So how do you then start Radiant? So you won't have to do this install part again, of course. After you've installed Radiant, you'll see this button where it says Add-ins here at the top, and then click Radiant Quant. Okay, unless you're in one of the other classes, but since you're going to be in the Business Analytics class, you want the Quant one. So click that. And let's see, it says requires an update of a package. Sure, do that. All right, and now what's going to happen is Radiant's going to start, and it's going to start in your web browser. Okay, so it's a web application. You're actually running R inside your web browser. So if this is what you see, after clicking again within RStudio on add-ins and then Radiant Quant, your default browser will open, and you'll see some information about diamond prices. Okay, so this is basically how the install process should work. One other thing I'd recommend, especially if you're using Chrome, which is the recommended browser, is that you go to Settings here, and then scroll down to Advanced Settings. Scroll down again until you see something about downloads. I would recommend that you ensure that downloads, it says ask where to save file before downloading. Okay, so in my case, this is going to my downloads folder normally, but it'll ask instead where do I want to save a file, because you're likely going to be saving different files, images, tables, and so on from the application. So again, click on Settings, Advanced Settings, and then scroll down to where it says Downloads. Okay, so the same thing works the same way if you're running this on Mac as well. Okay, so let me just very quickly say something about installing on Mac. It works exactly the same way as what we just saw on Windows. You install R. On Mac, you can accept all the defaults, and then once you've installed that, you install RStudio. And then the only thing to make sure, again, is that you copy and paste this command into RStudio, hit enter, let it run, and then from RStudio, use the add-ins button and Quant. Okay. All right, I hope that was clear. If you have any questions, let us know.